Welcome to the Bucky Brooks Show. Wanted to jump on immediately after hearing the news about Jaire Alexander signing with the Baltimore Ravens. Big move for the Baltimore Ravens, a team that is looking to make a Super Bowl push. I find it interesting that they bring in the two-time All-Pro just a day after Lamar Jackson advocates for the team to sign his former teammate at Louisville, a guy who's been a very decorated cornerback, someone who at one point was the highest paid corner in the league, to bring him on board. And what I love about the move immediately for the Baltimore Ravens is it gives them a new CB1 who has the potential to do all the things that they want to do in this defense. When you think about the Ravens defense and how they want to play, versatile style, hybrid defense that puts the corners in man and zone. They press, they play off, they do a bunch of different things. Jaire Alexander is one of the few cornerbacks in the league who does have a deep and expansive toolbox. When you watch the two-time All-Pro play, there's not a thing that he can't do on the island. He is someone who can challenge you nose to nose. He's feisty. He's a solid technician, does a really good job of working his feet and hands together. But he also has the ability to walk off, play with vision on the quarterback, do all the things in zone that you love to see while taking the ball away. So for me, I love what he adds to the team because he gives them a high-end player to play alongside Nate Wiggins. You think about Marlon Humphrey being able to kick inside. And so now their starting threesome on the perimeter is about as good as it gets in the National Football League. How does this continue to impact their defense? Well, when you think about the Ravens, how the Ravens traditionally have wanted to play in the past, they've always wanted to be a man-to-man team. And so they can continue along those lines, but now they have maybe more versatility and adaptability to change on a week-to-week basis based on the matchups, based on who they're trying to snuff out, an elite wide receiver, all of those things, which makes them maybe a more dangerous team, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, you think about this being a team that can put a significant amount of points on the board. One of the best offenses in the league. They're explosive, they're dynamic. They can force opponents to chase points, which then puts all of the onus on the opposing offense to really face a defense that is in pass rush mode and is in ball hawk mode. So to me, that makes perfect sense. I think it also makes sense for Jaire Alexander to sign in Baltimore because of the culture. One of the things that might have been a frustration for him and a frustration for the Packers is, look, man, he's a personality, right? He is someone who walks to the beat of his own drum. And in Baltimore, we've seen a lot of personalities go to Baltimore and succeed because their culture is one where, look, they're about the team, whatever, but they also are about guys being individuals and guys being able to kind of shine in their own light as long as it doesn't detract from what the team has going. For Jaire, I think that is a perfect situation, particularly with a former teammate and a two-time MVP and Lamar Jackson in the building. The fact that Lamar Jackson knows him, can not only advocate for him, but can check him if he ever gets out of line, to me, that is really important. When I think about the overarching view of the Ravens culture, they have always found a place to get good players to play well within them. Going all the way back to Ozzie Newsome, Eric DeCosta, head coach John Harbaugh, they work well with people. They are a relationship-driven team. They are a team that has high expectations when it comes to the people that they bring in. And you have to remember, when they talk about play like a Raven, that is an ethos that's been in place for a long time. And that ethos really represents how you play on the field. Are you tough? Are you smart? Are you fast? Are you physical? All of those things. Well, Jaire Alexander has shown all of those things throughout his career. The problem that we've seen with Jaire Alexander, which is why he's even on the market, is injuries have really impacted his ability to be healthy and available for the team. A few years ago, he signed a 4-year, $84 million deal that put him at the top of the market when it came to quarterback. Since the deal was done, he's only played in 34 of his last 68 games. In the past 2 seasons, he's only suited up in 14 games. When you look at the injuries, they're significant in terms of just the amount of like bumps and bruises and aches and pains that he's had to deal with. Knee, groin, back, quad, shoulder. Like he's had to deal with a lot. If the Ravens and their training staff are able to kind of put him back together, take care of him when it comes to what he's asked to do on the practice field so he can get to the game ready to go. He's already shown us that he can be a guy that can play at an all-pro level. Even last year, like people are talking about not being available, but he held opposing quarterbacks to a 79.9 passer rating allowed when targeting players in his vicinity. You think about him coming up with 2 interceptions. That's a lot of production for a guy who has the potential to travel and take out the opposing number 1 receiver. Now, for all the good things, the bad things would be like the injuries, and then I would say some of the emotional immaturity that came out. Like he had an incident in Carolina where he jumped in the coin toss and kind of disrupted the rhythm of that. He was fined significantly for that. It was a laughing matter to him, but not laughing to Matt LaFleur. And so if you're the Ravens, can you make sure that he always acts accordingly, is in an appropriate mode when it comes to what you're asking to do, how he represents the team outside of being in the facility in between the lines? Can he do those things? Now, that said, we're not talking about someone who has been in trouble. We're just saying from an emotional standpoint, from a maturity standpoint, can he be the model citizen that the Baltimore Ravens want? I'm going to bank on this, and I'm going to say yes, because we've seen this happen too often in Baltimore. The Baltimore Ravens take a player who is troubled elsewhere. They plug him into their system. They pour on him and love on him like John Harbaugh is apt to do. And the player plays really, really well for them. When I look at what this team needs to do, this is a team that has title aspirations. So they're going to ramp up the pressure. And sometimes guys respond to being, I would say, under the spotlight. Jaire Alexander will be in the spotlight. He'll be under the hot lamp because he's the new guy. And as a new guy, you never want to be that guy that is disrupting the team's Super Bowl plans. And with the vocal leaders that you have on that defense, when you think about Roquan Smith, you think about the leader that Kyle Hamilton is shaping into being, a multiple-time Pro Bowler, and Marlon Humphrey in the back end. There are a lot of guys that can put that pressure on Jaire Alexander to be the 2-time All-Pro that he's been throughout his career. When we talk about the locker room and how the locker room is important, how it's impactful, well, this is where the locker room comes in, because those emotional outbursts, the emotional immaturity that Jaire has displayed at times, well, that's when the leadership can come in and say, hey, man, we need you to be at your best. Like, this is how we do it here. This is how you're going to do it because you're a part of us. Let's buy in, and then we can elevate everybody, elevate you, elevate the team. If the team is elevated, plays at a Super Bowl level, well, then we all get paid significant money. That's why he needs to lock in, and that's why I really think that he will lock in. Now, bigger picture, I would say that I appreciate Lamar Jackson advocating for his teammates. But what he's done, he has only added to the pressure that he will feel on his shoulders heading into 2025. The 2-time MVP has been remarkable for the Baltimore Ravens. You think in the 8 seasons since he has been the starting quarterback, Lamar Jackson has the second best record of all of them since 2018. He's 70-24 as a starter. He has a 74.5 winning percentage. He has 3 AFC North titles, but he's the only multiple MVP who hasn't been to a Super Bowl. Well, now you talk about the defensive moves that they have added, how they've upgraded the secondary. They have a young, like, kind of feisty defense in place. Roquan Smith is locked and loaded and ready to go. He loves all the smoke from all coming. Defensively, man, they look great. They are ready to get this thing going. Offensively, they've added some firepower in terms of just quality pass catchers and playmakers that can help support Rashad Bateman. They can help support Zay Flowers. You have DeAndre Hopkins in the building. Isaiah Likely continues to be a guy that everyone is fascinated about because of his potential and what he has shown in the flashes in the backfield. King Henry in the building, being able to do it at a level that is almost another 2,000 yard season type level to go behind a quarterback in Lamar Jackson, who is just as capable of still ripping off 1,000 yard rushing seasons while going over 3,500, 4,000 yards through the air. He's the ultimate weapon, surrounded by a very solid and supportive collection of playmakers on the perimeter and a beefy offensive line. If it's going to happen for the Baltimore Ravens, it has to happen right now. I mean, this team, we always talk about it. We talk about it in media. Everyone celebrates this team and hails this team as one of the most talented teams that we've seen in the league, but we haven't seen them max it out. Some of that is due to number 8. Number 8 has not played his best consistently in the postseason, even though he played pretty well a season ago. But we haven't seen him dominate and take his game up to that extra level, the higher room, as they would say in church. Can he get to the higher room, the upper room? Can he get there? Can he give them what they need in the postseason to get them over the hump? Look, on paper, it's an obvious yes. I mean, it's one of the best teams, front, back, offense, defense, special teams that we've seen. But now can they perform to that level? While Lamar Jackson is also trying to deal with a contract that's coming up in terms of an adjustment being needed, given the fact that he has he has a huge cap number on the horizon, $74.5 million on the horizon in 2026. So that means after this year, they got to figure out a way to adjust it. Given the going rate, I mean, the dude was 5-year, $260 million. Look, it's gonna be crazy to just kind of see it. I love it. I love what they're doing. We need to see him kind of calm down and be able to do it. And I just want to make sure that he is ready to handle the pressure and everything that goes with it, because this year, and maybe to get the contract done before the season, he's going to be the highest paid player. And with the highest paid player comes the most expectations, a lot of weight on Lamar Jackson. But the good thing defensively, he got his former teammate to help him out. Let's dig into the chat and see where some of this has taken us, the reaction from Ravens fans and those things. Let's talk about it. So we have Ravens is where he needs to be, the culture, to find the love for the game again and get to play with his college teammates. So you love it. I'll say, yeah, I do love it. I do love the fact that Lamar Jackson is there to play with his college teammate. The reason why that is significant, the reason why it's good is because the checks and balances. Former player checking another former player, they're able to have that real conversation. So if Jaire gets out of line, well, look, man, there's someone there, Lamar Jackson, who knows him, who can kind of bring him in, and he can teach him the Ravens way. Everyone talks about the culture and how the culture operates. The culture is a living, breathing thing that is really passed on from player to player. Well, now Lamar Jackson can pass that on to Jaire Alexander. So he not only becomes comfortable in the environment, man, he becomes a guy that thrives in the environment. So I love it from that standpoint. And then from a defensive standpoint, I've talked about it, man. His skill set fits into anything. He is a scheme-friendly player. You put him in a defense behind a pass rush that can get after it, behind an aggressive defense that's going to force the quarterback to make some throws under duress. Jaire Alexander absolutely can get back to the all-pro level in Baltimore. Let's see, love it. Don't forget the DB they picked up from the Bengals. Yeah. Cheeto, Uzier will give them a chance and they'll do some things. But look, I think it's less about him. I think Jaire Alexander goes to the front of the line when it comes to what they're doing. So it makes a lot of sense. Anytime you have an opportunity to get a 2-time all-pro player who's only 28 years old, who is still in his prime, you just got to figure out a way to manage the health situation, the injuries. If you can manage the injuries, make sure he is in championship shape, doing all the things that he needs to do to get himself ready. Look, man, Jaire Alexander is an upgrade. He is a huge upgrade over what they have. And to have him, Marlon Humphrey, and Nate Wiggins, first-round pick, all of those guys been able to try it out and match up with some of the wide receiver cores across the league. You like that, and you really like that in the division, because remember, in Cincinnati, man, you got a problem in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, what they're able to present. Well, now the Ravens are better able to match up with them. Lamar Jackson locks down on his turnover issues. I believe this team is unstoppable. I would agree with you, Samuel Krause, on that comment. Yeah, it's all about Lamar Jackson taking care of the ball. This is the next step in their evolution. The Baltimore Ravens have done so many things well to this point, but they have not been able to get over the top. Some of that is, I would say a lot of that is due to their own issues, their own self-inflicted mistakes, their inability to play their best in the postseason. How does John Harbaugh change that? Does he have a plan to change that? Whether it's the practice habits, whether it's the overall preparation of the team in terms of getting them ready for what is going to be a very tough and competitive journey in the postseason. Whatever that is, John Harbaugh has to tap into that. But yeah, there is something to be said for why this team has not been able to get it done. Lamar Jackson has played a role, hasn't played great in those big games, but he did play fairly well this time around, but just came up short. Do I see a 49ers Ravens Super Bowl this year with all things permitted, schedule, no injuries, etc.? I can see the Ravens in the Super Bowl. I don't know if I see the 49ers in that vein. And here's why. There are a lot of moving parts that the San Francisco 49ers are having to deal with in terms of being the best team that they can possibly present, given what they have on their roster on paper. Christian McCaffrey's coming off injury, so you got to make sure that he is right. Brandon Ayuk is coming off a serious injury. You want to make sure that they're right. There's been a lot of turnover when it comes to their defense. Some of the guys that they let go, some of the guys that they bring in. Some of those guys know Robert Saleh, but it just appears to be like a revolving door. So it's a lot of change, a lot of constant people trying to figure it out. So I'm not as confident in the Niners right now without seeing them. Very confident that, look, man, the Ravens have been close. They've been knocking on the door. We know that we've seen them knocking on the door, but look, at some point they got to kick it in. I'm more confident in the Ravens being there than the Niners at this point, though. Can we get offensive guards? Look, everyone wants to fix the offense, but I'll tell you this. The truth in the National Football League is not about who you have there. Is can you avoid having tomato cans up front, meaning guys that have no business being in the league, but they're logging significant starts. When I think about the Baltimore Ravens and how their offensive line is being constructed, we can debate some of the top players, but they're good on the edges and they're firm enough on the inside. We'd like to see them upgrade and get better, but right now, look, it's working for them. So I can't imagine Baltimore making sweeping moves along the front line. Here we go. Jay Will, 501. Ravens need to force more turnovers in the playoffs. They haven't had one since the 2022 playoffs. That is a significant deal. The fact that they are struggling in terms of taking the ball away, it speaks to a few different things. One, the defense isn't getting the offense backed up in situations where they're having to force the ball into coverage, meaning into a risky coverage. Everyone's all eyes on the quarterback, so they're getting faster breaks on the quarterback. That is a part of it. But now that we're done with that, we have it set and ready to go. Like this should be a thing where we are talking about the Ravens really being lined up and ready to rock. So I love what they're doing. I love how they're kind of making the process work. I love the offensive line in front of Derrick Henry. We saw Derrick Henry kind of return to form, playing behind a better offensive line. That offensive line has gotten even better because of the greater commitment that the team has made to the front line. I expect this front line to get after it, but more importantly, I expect Derrick Henry to get after it no matter who's in front of him. And then Lamar Jackson is just kind of the cherry atop the sundae in terms of what he adds to the running game. But yeah, it starts with the offensive guard, starts inside out. They got to make sure that they're ready to go in the pivot. Don't forget Chuck Pagano and Dean Pease are helping with the secondary too. That is a good move. Chuck Pagano recently said he has no desire to be a head coach again, but this is his way to make his contributions quietly behind closed doors, being able to look at the tape, look at the players, offer up some suggestions that work. Young coordinator, you got to be willing to adapt and take some of this in. And so with Chuck Pagano and Dean Pease coming there, it's not only the X's and O's, but it's structuring the meeting, structuring practice, trying to help your game go to the next level. If I'm Zachary Orr, I love having those guys in the building. They were around when we've been at our best. I need to soak up all the knowledge that they can give me and make sure that I elevate and become a better player. So, yeah, I think For all the defenders, the presence of Chuck Pagano, Dean Peace will make the overall defense better. It'll make me better in terms of I'm defensive coordinator Zachary Orr. I'm better because I have to raise my game. And then the players are ultimately better because they're taking all this stuff in and they're acting it out. And because we're a developmental league, it always works out like that. Ravens guards, Shushanas, Jaire hadn't played in post-game game, barely ever plays. You're right. Jaire Alexander barely plays. Last 2 seasons, he's only played in 14 total games, 7 games apiece. So I can understand the frustration. That's a bit of the roll of the dice. But that gamble should be reflected in the contract, which is why someone that's willing to bet on themselves should go all in on the Ravens and talk about it. And so, like, you think about Jaire Alexander being able to bet on himself, saying, hey, I'm going to stay healthy. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to play for a good team. I'm going to get some notoriety, some acclaim, and some accolades if I play well. That leads to a bigger payday. Makes sense for me for him to do it. DJ Amp, most of the talent Gamp, once we get past, most of that is the talent Gamp. Rotating offensive lineman is unacceptable. Yeah, it's unacceptable, but you got to do what you got to do. Let's see. The turnover issue, he's on one of the best protectors of the ball in the league. I think what they're alluding to when it comes to Lamar Jackson, some of the turnover struggles that he's had in the past during the postseason. I felt like he actually played really well in the postseason. I don't think it was on him, but people are nitpicking. And so, but anytime it's a quarterback, we're talking about ball control, taking care of the ball. Got to make sure that the quarterback understands that and does it. If Mark Andrews turned into a practice squad dud, the Ravens probably go get a Super Bowl already. Look, there's a lot of conversation about Andrews. They'll talk about like the drops or the plays that he was unable to come down within Super Bowl. But I think people need to have a little perspective on how big and fast the game is, how quickly everything escalates, and what the newfound expectations are. Start behind the line, finish through the line, all that other stuff. That's a big part of our DNA. So you got to continue to make sure that it happens like that. And when I think about Mark Andrews, I think he is the centerpiece to the offensive puzzle as a pass catching tight end. And even though he's in the twilight of his career, he's been so good for so long. They understand how to continue to build this offense around the tight end. Even though I would say likely is a better player, more dynamic player, hasn't quite taken the mantle from the other guy. But look, good players, can't go wrong with good players. Mark Andrews is a good player. So even though people are mad at him based on where it ended, he'll have an opportunity to bounce back. And that is good. Tim Sones, we match up good against the Bengals now. Yes, you do. Because one thing that the Bengals could do is whenever they empty people out, they could dictate the terms. They could force you into a situation that you don't want to be in, whether you're in man or zone. And it's advantageous for them. Now, because they can kind of stick and pick and stay where they're at, should be a much better deal for everybody. Simplicity is the key. Being able to match up and unlock and unleash your talent is critical. Well, when you have your guys and you have them for multiple years in your system, that process becomes a lot easier because time on task allows you to pick the right ones for the right roles. Love all of that. See if we got anything else in the chat. What else we got in the chat? Yeah, okay. We ran through the chat fairly well. Let's talk about how the Baltimore Ravens right now stack in the AFC North, because the AFC North is loaded, but favorable in a weird way where they can still. When I look at this division and I look at the teams, particularly on offense, they're kind of a collection of hodgepodge pieces, with the exception of the Cincinnati Bengals. I look at the rest of the division. DK Metcalf coming over to Pittsburgh to be the number one. I got new quarterback and Aaron Rodgers coming in the franchise quarterback after spending the season with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. So you wonder how that all works out. Do those guys feel a certain type of way because they weren't able to deliver the way that they wanted to? All those things kind of matter. But the other stuff that matters is, as we're looking at the North and matching up with those offenses, like, man, who can match up with Cincinnati? Because Cincinnati be the gold standard. High-end number one, Jamar Chase. High-end number two, and T. Higgins. Mike Gesicki, they can throw it all over the yard. They're going to empty it out. The way that you get Cincinnati Bengals is you got to attack the pass rush and their protections. They are not doing a lot of that. And so there are going to be some guys that run scot-free and hit you in the mouth. And so that is something that you have to deal with when you're dealing with those teams. Cincinnati, you think about the physicality and toughness of Pittsburgh, particularly when you're playing there and they start playing Renegade. It's a different energy, different atmosphere. It's personal. The Cleveland Browns have a lot of talent. On paper, they don't look like they'll be a lot of good, but they certainly have unique and impressive talents. They need to continue to give him an opportunity to play multiple things, but kind of like how it's training. I kind of like how this division is trending. We talk about the heavy hitters within the division, the nastiness and the disdain that these two franchises, this franchise has with the rest of them. Yeah, you got to make them feel us. And one way is by making things happen where you are able to like grind it out, figure it out, and make you get into the fourth quarter of these divisional affairs. That typically goes to the best team standing. What else do we have? We want to make sure that we talk about the Lamar Jackson contract. Look, guys, you got to remember he is 3 years into a deal that, if paying him a grip of money, well, now he's about to win another MVP, and that means they can pay him a double grip of money. I just think about that. I just think about how good that is, how fortunate that is for Lamar Jackson to go into getting another major deal. Look, the market is going to explode under his watch. $74.5 million cap hit, which meant if he didn't do anything, that's how much they owed him. That makes the negotiations far more Lamar than anybody else. Because this is, I know we heard the conversations and all that, but the kind of bread and cheese that you're going to have to pay Lamar Jackson. It's going to be hard to do much of anything else, but that is what we expected. That's what we bargained for. And kudos to Lamar Jackson and the team for taking advantage of the rules. Those rules set them up for success for a long, long time. So I wanted to pop on, give you 25 minutes, just unfiltered opinion on Jaire Alexander, what we like, what it's going to do, how's it going to impact the team. And look, I think anytime you add a two-time All-Pro to the island to be your QB1, it helps the team. I think when you add someone with his personality and experience, it helps the team. But more importantly, his presence making that defense better is only going to make the offense better, because now the defense turns it over, hands the ball to the offense, and away they go. If the Ravens are able to get that yin and yang, that balance between the offense and the defense with their skill players, man, it's going to be a lot of excitement when we think about what is going down in Baltimore. Make sure you continue to check out the Bucky Brooks Show. I had an opportunity last few weeks to do a couple of our shows. One in Pittsburgh this past week. I was on Believing Commanders, Scott Jackson, Anthony Armstrong, and it was great. I love doing those things, love popping in, love taking a different perspective to the topics that are being bannered around. So I'm looking forward to doing more of that stuff. What you should be looking forward to is clicking the subscribe button. Make sure you rate, review the podcast. Make sure you continue to check out all the cool stuff that I'm doing here with the Bucky Brooks Show, all the cool stuff that we're doing and talking about the Jags and other stuff. Make sure you kind of keep it locked in on the Believe Network. Check out our channel on YouTube. Subscribe to the pod. Review it. Give me a double thumbs up. We all love that. But until next time, I'm Bucky Brooks. This is Bucky Brooks Show. I'll see you around the block.